Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah and it is time for another TBR Jar challenge. So I have all of my books on my physical TBR in here. Blue ones are older ones, yellow ones are newer ones, and basically what I do is I choose 5 slips of paper out of this jar and I commit to reading 3 of them for a vlog and talk me through my thoughts with them and just kind of try and narrow down my TBR a little bit. So without further ado, we will kind of mix and match here. And let's go with this one. So the first book that I will have is The Overnight Guest by Heather Goodenkoff. This is one I just got for my birthday and I'm so excited to read it. It is a thriller and one that I've never heard of, but I'm so excited to try it. All right, let's go with this one. Ooh. Okay, let's do this one. And we have, The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. This is a cozy fantasy one. That is a beautiful cover. I'm so excited to read it. All right. Come on, focus. There we go. And then we have The Witcher by Andrzej Sapkowski. That one's intimidating. Okay, so that's 3. And we have A Demon's Guide to Wooing a Witch. This is book 2 by Sarah Hawley. The first one being A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon. I really enjoyed that one. And last but not least, let's go with this one. Another older one. Oh, and we have The Awakening by Nora Roberts. Okay, I've never read anything by Nora Roberts, but she intimidates me because it's like big romance author that just scary. But this is a fantasy one, so I'm very excited to try it. All right, let me collect the books and I will be right back. Okay, so first book that we have is The Witcher. This is the first book, Blood of Elves by Andrzej Sapkowski. We've watched the show, or at least the beginning of the show, and my husband loved it. And so I got the books for him a couple of Christmases ago and he started it, but he never got very far. I have yet to try it. So it says, for over a century, humans, dwarves, gnomes, and elves have lived together in relative peace, but that peace has come to an end. Geralt of Rivia, the hunter known as the Witcher, has been waiting for the birth of a prophesied child, the one who has the power to change the world for good or for evil. As the threat of war hangs over the land and the child is pursued for her extraordinary powers, it will become Geralt's responsibility to protect them all, and the Witcher never accepts defeat. So it's the first novel in the Witcher saga. And I'm really curious about it, but I'm really nervous because this is really intimidating, like high fantasy series. The next one that we have is The Awakening by Nora Roberts. This book, it says, in the realm of Talam, a teenage warrior named Keegan emerges from the lake holding a sword, representing both power and the terrifying responsibility to protect the Fae. In another realm known as Philadelphia, a young middle school teacher has just discovered she possesses a treasure of her own. Breen Kelly works at a job she hates while trying to pay off her student loan, pinching pennies and fighting off anxiety attacks. She's prone to those, along with headaches and strange dreams, like the one she just had in which she encountered a dragon. But as vivid as the dream is, she knows that the bedtime stories of magical places that her father told her about long ago, before he disappeared, were just that, stories. Only lately, she's noticed a silver-haired man who seems to follow her everywhere, yet always eludes her when she tries to catch him. She thinks she hears his voice in her head. Come home, Breen Siobhan. It's time you came home. So, this one is a fantasy book that is by the romance author Nora Roberts. Now, Nora Roberts intimidates me to no end because I don't know, I've always been afraid of reading her books. Like, I know she's come out with a handful of fantasies and I'm scared to death to read them because I'm afraid that I'm not going to like them. But I'm also curious enough that I got this one so that way I could try it and see what I think. Okay, and then these last three are ones that I got for my birthday that I'm really excited about. These are pretty much going to be a guarantee that I'm probably going to read them. The first one being A Demon's Guide to Wooing a Witch by Sarah Hawley. This is the second book to A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon. I absolutely loved the first book. This one is following her I can't remember her name from the first book. It's her friend Claudia and Astaroth, who is the boss. And this book was, the first book was such a fun time that I really wanted to get the second one, and I'm so excited to read this. The next one that I will be reading is The Spell Shop. This is by Sarah Beth Durst. This is a cozy fantasy book, and I don't really know a whole lot else about it, but I'm very excited to read it. It is a beautiful cover. Beautiful cover. I'm so excited. It's got the purple edges. And my mom wants to read this one, and my sister owns this one as well. So it's probably going to end up being like a big buddy read between the three of us, which is always so much fun. And then the last one is The Overnight Guest by Heather Gudenkauf. This is basically an isolated setting in the winter in a murder house with a child found and creepy people. I don't know. I'm really excited. I've never heard of this author. I've never heard of this book, but I'm so excited to try it out. I am still on the lookout for a 5-star thriller. Last thriller I read, Middle of the Night by Riley Sager, didn't do it for me. So hopefully this one will be a good one. I'm really, really excited to try it. It says Heather Gudenkauf is a master of suspense. The overnight guest will have you glued to the page and leave you wanting more. So it sounds really, really intriguing, and I am very, very, very excited to try this book. So these are my 5 choices for this episode of TBR Jar Challenge. And I will update you once I start in on the first book. I don't know what I'm going to start with, so we will see. Possibly Nora Roberts to get that one started and see what I think. But I will update you once I have some initial thoughts for my first book. Hey guys, so it is almost 9 o'clock on Monday, August 19th. And I have finally started the first book for my TBR challenge. And that is A Demon's Guide to Wooing a Witch. This is book 2 to A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon by Sarah Hawley. And I am up to chapter 16, a little over 150 pages in, so I'm almost halfway. And I am really enjoying this so far. This book is following Claudia and Astaroth. Astaroth is a demon who in the first book made a bet with another demon that Oz, our main male character from the first book, would be able to get a soul and kind of redeem himself. And this book is following Astaroth after that bet kind of plays itself out and what happens. And Claudia is Mariel's best friend, or I believe her name is Mariel. From the first book, she is kind of a jock. She is a personal trainer, and she likes to work out. She likes to be the feeling of being like a strong person. And she has quite the temper and likes to get into fights. She has been kicked out of multiple places for brawling. And Astaroth, part of the bet is that, or part of the consequences of his bet, I should say, is that he is sent to Earth and loses his memories of everything from like the last couple centuries. And so when he is banished to Earth, he just happens to run into Claudia again, and she helps him before she realizes that she's helping Astaroth. And things kind of spiral from there because she finds out that he lost his memory, and she has enough of a conscience that she doesn't want to just leave him to be attacked and basically killed in the streets. And so she takes him home, but the demon that Astaroth made the bet with comes after them and blows up the house, and like it all kind of spirals from there. So but this book is basically following these two, that they are trying to figure out what happened with Astaroth and what happened with his memories, and trying to get his memories back. And of course, it's them actually having to spend more time together. It's kind of a forced proximity, enemies to lovers, kind of a romance. So I'm really enjoying this book. I really like Sarah Hawley's writing, and I like her banter that she includes with the characters a lot. Her banter is so much fun that it's just, they always pick at each other, and they're just trying to piss each other off, because like Astaroth, he knows that they're supposed to be enemies according to Caladia, but he's not sure why. But he's learned that he kind of likes to make her mad. But there's also comments that he makes that just make her crack up, and he also loves to see her smile. He also is able to kind of pick up on things like the hostility between Caladia and her mother, and her not wanting to be there. But she's also, like, one of the things that I've really liked in this book is that it talks about how he wants her to be exactly who she is. If she's a bitch, then he wants her to be a bitch. Like, he doesn't want to change her. And it's talked about her having this ex-boyfriend, Sam, who basically was trying to change her and mold her into the perfect woman for him. And that's why she broke off their relationship. And she talks about how with Astaroth it's so different, because she's not trying to like prove herself to him. She's not trying to change herself for him, because she doesn't like him, or at least she doesn't think that she likes him. So far I'm really enjoying this book. They had to go camping, and he was absolutely against it, but he ended up being a huge help for her in camping and like prepping for like their campfire and helping with set up the tent and things like that, which she says that, you know, she's willing to take on the extra weight of having her friends go camping with her, but it's kind of nice having somebody to help shoulder that. And so I don't know, I'm really liking this so far. I like their relationship so far, how it's playing out. He has that kind of touch her and die attitude, that he's very protective over her, even though they're not supposed to like each other. They're just supposed to be working together to try and solve their mutual problems. But I'm really liking it. I am going to continue reading this today, but my kiddo has his first baseball game tonight. So I'm going to read a bit today before I head to town. And then things are probably going to fall by the wayside after that. Hopefully tonight I'll be able to do some more reading. I don't know. I'm going to see how far I get in this. Like I said, I'm like 154 pages into this right now. So I'm going to see how far I get. But so far I'm really enjoying it. Like I said, I love their banter. I love her storylines. I love all the different creatures that she includes in her characters, because it's just so much fun. Her pickup truck that it shows up here, her old pickup truck, she named it Clifford the Little Red Truck, and I think that's really fun. And yeah, so I'm just really enjoying this so far. I'm just having a good time with it, and I'm going to continue reading this today. I have some other books going, but I'm not like super into anything right now except for this. So I'm kind of focusing on this to try and get some reading done. And so yeah, I'm going to keep reading this, and I will check back in with you probably when I finish it. So I'll catch you guys later. Okay guys, so I just finished A Demon's Guide to Wooing a Witch, and while I liked this book, it got too political at the end for me. It went a bit overboard to me, and then it just kind of ended. Like, they had their big proclamation of love for each other, and then it just ended. Like, it was really lackluster to me, and I felt like there was so many things that were just like the first book, that, you know, they start off on the wrong foot and then they start to grow on each other. And I liked the quest aspect of this a lot, but I don't know, it just kind of petered out for me. Like, it took me a week to read this, and honestly, like, these romances usually take me like a day and a half at most, so if I'm really into them. So the fact that it took me a week to read this, I know I've had a lot going on with baseball starting and stuff like that. There's just been a lot of different things going on and things have been really busy. But I haven't been like itching to pick this up as much as I should be. I feel like I've been spending way too much time playing on my phone in comparison to wanting to pick up a book and read, which is, it really sucks. Like, I don't like that. I want to be just craving picking up a book and finding out what happens in it. And this one just didn't quite cut it. I liked their relationship. I loved their banter. The banter is always the best part for me. But it was, like I said, it was just really lackluster. I think I'm going to land at like a 3.5 stars. Like, I really liked this. This was fine. But it got way too political at the end. I really didn't like that. I was just rolling my eyes and I just did not like that at all. And the way that it just ended, like, it was so boring to me. Like, they didn't have, I mean, this book is one of those books, like, it could have used an epilogue, like, 2 months later or whatever, a month later, what is happening moving forward. And I know that there's a book 3, but it's from a completely different perspective. It's from the perspective of, I believe, Ben, the werewolf friend, who's been such a minor character in these books so far. And I think if you're going to do this one where it's the best friend and the demon boss, mentor, whatever, if you're going to do this, you need to make it more different. You need to make it, and like I said, like, the quest part of this was great. The whole thing with him having amnesia and them going on a quest and having to try and help each other out with trying to figure things out and figure out what's going on, that's all fine and good. But it was so similar in so many other ways to the first book that it just was really mediocre for me. And I'm really disappointed. I don't know if I'm going to buy the third book or not with how this one ended. I had a great time with the first book. I gave it like 4 or 4.5 stars, and I had a really great time with it. But this one just really was kind of middle of the road for me. Like I said, I enjoyed the book while I was reading it. I enjoyed their banter, but I didn't like the ending of this book at all. The last like 100 pages or so was just fine, I guess. And so yeah, I mean, for being a almost 400-page book, like, I thought that it could have done more. It could have been more different. It could have had more to it. And so yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna try another romance, or I'm not entirely sure what my mood is kind of leaning towards right now. I do have a lot of videos that I need to really kind of get my shit together and work on. So now it's just a matter of kind of laying my thoughts out, and I think that's what I'm going to do today, is just kind of lay my thoughts out, take a look at everything that I'm planning, that I'm wanting to do, that I'm wanting to read, and wanting to vlog. And I also have my TBR that I need to plan for next week, and so I need to get that ready to go for Thursday. And I gave this one 3.5 stars. And so yeah, it was fine, but I'm ready to move on to other things, and I will check back in with you, I guess, when I figure out what those other things, that next book, that next read will be. Good morning, guys. Okay, so I started The Awakening by Nora Roberts this weekend. I started it yesterday, and this is, I think, the one that I am most intimidated by, because Nora Roberts is such a huge name in romance, and not the typical romance that I look for personally. So this one is actually like a fantasy that she's written, and I think it's probably going to be a fantasy romance, to be completely honest with you, but I'm not entirely sure. I just know that it's a fantasy. It's got dragons in it, so it is fantasy. And I made it up to, I believe it said 25% on Goodreads, but I'm up to 112 or 113 pages into this book. So far, it's been very slow. This book is following Brienne, who is in her, I believe, late 20s. And she is a middle school teacher. She has her master's in teaching. However, she doesn't like it. Her father is Irish, and he left when she was about 10 years old. Her parents split up, and her dad left. And he's tried to stay in touch for a little while. However, she hasn't had any contact with him in at least 16 or so years. So she hasn't had any contact with him for quite a while. And her mom is very controlling. She has a way of talking to Brienne where it's basically she is barely... The wording that she uses in this is barely adequate. So she's not really good enough, but she's okay. So she really puts down her daughter. And Brienne has found out that her mom has actually been hiding a bank account from her that her father has been putting money into for the last 16 or so years since she was 10 years old. And that amount of money has now accumulated to be almost $4 million in savings. And she had no idea that it was there. She had no idea about it at all. But when she finds out, she confronts her mom and says, "You've been watching me struggle for years and years with debt, student loans, trying to make ends meet and whatnot, and you didn't tell me, why the hell didn't you tell me about this money?" And so now she has this money, and she has decided that she is going to quit her job because she doesn't like it, and she never wanted to be a teacher in the first place. And she is going to take the summer, travel to Ireland, and try and learn about her heritage, about her father that she doesn't really remember a ton about because she was 10 when she saw him last. And so she's decided to go with her best friend, and her gay best friend, mind you, to go to Ireland and try and learn about her heritage. But she keeps having these really realistic dreams where she's drowning, or where she's riding a dragon, or meeting different people. And at this point in the book, she's gotten to Ireland. She's had an incredible first couple of days in Ireland, staying in a castle. Her and her best friend Marco, they're in Ireland. He's going to stay for about 2 weeks, and then he's going to go back home. But she's going to stay for the entire summer and try and find out more about her heritage and kind of try and find herself as well. She's trying to figure out, what she actually wants to do. Now that she has this money and she's found out how awful her mom has actually been to her over the years, she wants to kind of try and find herself and figure out what's next. So this book so far, the writing style is fine. I was really thrown off because the prologue is from a completely different perspective, and then it switches to Brienne's perspective when chapter 1. And it's very different. So I wasn't sure about this book to start with. However, I am intrigued. I like seeing the Irish culture come up and different things like that. I'm really curious to see what happens with her dreams, because I do know from the synopses that there is a connection between another world, basically, and her dreams. And I'm excited to see what that connection is. So far right now, this book is kind of middle of the road. It's not anything super amazing, but I am intrigued. I want to find out more. And so I'm excited to keep reading it. I'm going to keep reading this today, and maybe work on some reading of some other books as well, because I have a few different vlogs going, plus I'm doing my TBR today as well, or starting it. So I have a lot going on right now, but I am going to continue reading this and see where it takes me and how I feel about it, because I'm excited to see what happens next. And I know that it's supposed to be another world with dragons and mermaids and whatnot. So kind of a whimsical, possibly kind of a story. So I will continue reading this today, and I will check back in with you when I get a little bit further into this. Like I said, I'm about a quarter of the way or so through. It doesn't look like much, but I am over 100 pages into this now, and I'm curious to see where it's going to go. So I will check back in with you guys when I have a little bit more thoughts and perspective on The Awakening. Okay guys, so it is, right now it is 5:15 on August 27th, and I wanted to come on here and update you again on The Awakening. This is by Nora Roberts, and I will say it has been kind of a roller coaster. So far this book hasn't really been much of a romance at all. It's been more of a self-discovery that Breen is a woman who is in her mid-20s and has had so far just like a really mediocre life. She is a middle school teacher, but she doesn't like her job, and her mom, she doesn't have a very good relationship with. Her mom always says that she is barely adequate, in her words, and just doesn't really give her any credit, doesn't want her to be adventurous or try anything or anything like that. So then she finds out that her mom has actually been hiding from her the fact that she actually has a savings account that her father set up for her before he left, or before the parents split up. So since she was around 10 years old, that has nearly $4 million in it. And so with that, she decides that she is going to quit her job as a middle school teacher, and she is going to travel to Ireland to try and find out more about her father and her roots and her heritage. And when she goes to Ireland with her best friend Marco, she stays in a castle and learns a little bit more. She meets some people that knew her father and learns a little bit more about him, and then she stays in a cottage, and then things happen. And she finds out that there is actually an alternate world where dragons exist, trolls exist, she has a grandmother, there's mermaids, there's magic, there's all kinds of just really fantastical, amazing things. And she doesn't know what to think. She doesn't believe it to start with, and she doesn't understand what's happening or how she got there. But as she starts to learn more about it, and talk to her grandmother and meet people and learn things, she becomes more accepting of it. And now I am officially up to part 3. I am 306 pages into this book, and this book has been a roller coaster because it seems like when I started the book, I wasn't sure about it, because it was a lot about her life in Philadelphia and how she wasn't happy and stuff like that. And so I wasn't sure about it, but then it kind of grew on me, and I started to enjoy my time more and started enjoying the beginning of their trip and whatnot. And then you get to part 2, and that is where the fantasy elements of this book started to come in. And that, I wasn't sure about it first. It wasn't like it was like a deep dive into like a cozy fantasy-esque type thing. Like showing up in Neverland kind of a thing, because it was just so whimsical in so many different ways. And so I wasn't sure about it, but the more that I read into the chapter, or into that section of the book, and the more that I read, and the more that I explored the characters that she's meeting and the friendships that she is connecting with and whatnot, the more that I'm enjoying it. And now that I've started part 3 has kicked off with a bang. I read the first chapter, and I'm so intrigued at this point to see what happens with this book. And I am so surprised, because I have said from the time that I pulled this book out of the jar, that I was not sure about Nora Roberts, but I wanted to try it because it's a fantasy, and it was just something that I was really curious about. And I'm really actually enjoying it, and I'm very happy with it. It's kind of it's a fantasy, but it's not like epic fantasy. It's more of like a light fantasy, but there's like this whole, it's just crazy. There's this whole other world, but it is still like very whimsical. But at the same time, she's found out that her grandfather, actually, of all people, is like, he's a god, but he is not a good god. He is a bad god that is basically like a dementor, that he will like suck out your soul and suck out your magic and just basically end up killing you by sucking out your essence. And so it's hard to explain it, because it's just kind of wild, and it's a concept that I wasn't expecting. I don't know what I was expecting when I went into this book exactly, because I read the synopses, and so I kind of had an idea of what it was going to be about, but I didn't really know what I was getting into. And so like I said, I'm 300 pages into this book. This book is about 430 pages or so, right around 430 pages long. So I have just a little bit over 100 pages left, and I'm really, really enjoying my time. I'm not entirely sure what I'm gonna rate this yet, because like sometimes it seems like it's dragging a little bit, but one thing that I love in these fantasy books is the learning concepts, where you are learning about magic, you are learning about different things when it comes to magic. Like one book that really comes to mind is with The Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini. It was in Eldest. It was in book 2, that a big portion of Eldest was that he goes and he is learning from a dragon rider, the last living dragon rider. He is learning magic, he is learning how to have a better connection with his dragon and all that. And my husband always said that that was the slowest book in the series. But it was actually one of my favorite books in the series, because I love that learning aspect. You get the world set up, you get the magic set up, and then everything from there is just learning more about it. And it's her finding that in herself, finding how she can light fires, light candles, create light in her hand and whatnot. And it's her learning how to control that, and really finding who she is in this world that she never even knew existed. So I'm really, really enjoying this so far, and I'm very excited to see what comes next in part 3. I know things gonna pick up. Somebody's just tried to, the way that it was explained is like she had these snakes that can put you in like a sleeping curse, and it explained it like almost like Sleeping Beauty, except a kiss doesn't wake you up. It's just you stay in a deep dark sleep until whoever put the curse on you decides to take you out of it. So there's references to that. There's references to Game of Thrones, like with her trying to learn swordplay, that it talks about sticking them with a pointy end and different things like that. So there's little connections like that that I'm enjoying personally. And so yeah, I'm really, really excited to keep reading this. I would love to finish it tonight, but I'm not gonna make any promises to that. But I am really enjoying it, and so I will be continuing on with this. But the big reason that I also wanted to come on here and talk to you guys was not only to update you on this, because a lot has happened since I last updated you. I got some book mail and some fun things. I'm not really sure what I'm getting. So I have this book sleeve that my sister made for me. It is Harry Potter, it is the Daily Prophet, and has a little button and has yellow on the inside. And I absolutely love this thing, and I use the crap out of it. I use it so much. And so I wanted to get another one that I could kind of swap them out. And so it came in the mail today, and I already opened it up because I couldn't wait, and I didn't want to wait. And so I've already opened it up, but I got another book sleeve. This one, it says I got lost in my book, and it has bookshelves and a chair, and it's just beautiful. Like, it looks like a painting on here, but it has a little pocket on this side and the zipper, which mine doesn't have a zipper. It has a button, but it's just black on the inside. And I really, really like it. It's super nice. And then I also I have a ton of pens. My mom is cleaning out her pens and like her bullet journaling stuff, and she's giving a bunch of it to me because I don't have a lot, and stuff's expensive. So she's giving me a bunch of it. So I have a ton of pens, and I don't have a big enough pencil bag to put them in. So I also got this. It says book lover, and the definition of it is kind of thin, but I really like it. I love the colors on it, and it's way bigger than the one that I have. It's like twice the size of the one that I have, which I think is going to be perfect for what I'm going to use it for. I haven't opened this yet because I don't know what it is, and I wanted to share it with you guys. So this is from Hatchet Book Group, which is Orbit. And I have no idea what's in here. I've put in a few requests for arcs that are going to be coming out soon. I know the Phoenix Keeper just came out, even though I put in a request for that one, but I didn't get it. So I bought that book, but I wanted to open this with you guys. So without further ado, because I am chomping at the bit to see what's in here. Oh my god. I got a finished copy of The Phoenix Keeper by S.A. McLean. How cool is that? Oh my god, I've never gotten a finished copy from them yet. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so I got a complimentary copy of The Phoenix Keeper from Hachette. I'm so excited to read this book. Hopefully I will be reading it very, very soon. I have lots of plans for September, and I do intend on picking this up at some point, even if it's not for any particular video. But this book, oh my god, there are pictures in here. Okay, so this book, it is a debut novel from this author. It says, from one of the most exciting new voices in fantasy comes a warm hug of a novel featuring a magical zoo teeming with mythical beasts and soul-restoring queer romance at its heart. As head Phoenix Keeper at a world-renowned zoo for magical creatures, Ayla's childhood dream is conserving critically endangered firebirds is closer than ever. But when a tragic heist sabotages a neighboring zoo, Ayla must prove she's capable of leading a new conservation program despite the looming threat. But Ayla's biggest challenge isn't wrangling beasts, it's talking to people. So, mustering the courage to ask for help from the hotshot griffin keeper at the zoo's most popular exhibit, virtually impossible. Especially when that hotshot griffin keeper happens to be her arch rival from college, Luciana. An insufferable know-it-all with the face of a goddess who's convinced that Ayla's beloved phoenix would be better off as a performer than as a passive conservation exhibit. With the world watching and the threat of poachers looming, Ayla's success is no longer merely a matter of keeping her job. The future of a species and her love life now rests on her shoulders. Oh my god. This sounds so good. And I have to show you this because it looks absolutely beautiful. Look at this artwork in here. Can you see that? Oh my god, I'm so excited to read this book. I'm so excited. Just everything with like phoenixes and magical creatures, like I am a huge Harry Potter fan, and so anything with like phoenix, magical creatures, magical zookeeping, just anything along those lines sounds absolutely fantastic to me. So thank you so much to Hachette Book Group and Orbit for sending me this. I did not expect it at all, and I'm so excited. And so yeah, I will be picking this up very, very soon. And to continue on with my reading for today, now that I'm so excited, and I will update you when I have more to say, my final thoughts on The Awakening by Nora Roberts. And so yeah, I will check back in with you guys later. And good morning, guys. So it is now 10 after 7 on the 28th of August. And I stayed up way too late finishing this book last night. I really, really liked this book. I said in my little clip yesterday that I really liked the whole training aspect of this book, and that holds true. Very, very much so. That holds true. And I liked the magic. I like that it's just... It makes it feel like a cozy fantasy, I think, partly because it's just like classic magic. It's just classic fantasy, that it's dragons and there's mermaids and there's wares and there's trolls and just like the classic fairy tale type magical creatures. There's the just kind of classic magic where they have an athame and they make circles and they use herbs and things like that. So it's just it's very cozy because it's just kind of classic magical elements. It's nothing complicated. It's nothing crazy. As much as I love the complicated and the crazy magic systems, it was just kind of nice having that kind of just classic magical type of setup. And I really liked that. This book, when I finished it, I put a comment on Goodreads that this book was like a cozy fantasy in this book, but it has the potential to really kick up the stakes in the following 2 books. This is a trilogy. And so there's a lot of potential for there to be more. This book left off with such a perfect cliffhanger that I immediately want to track down a copy of the next book. I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4.5 stars. The only reason that I took off the half star was just because every time a new section of the book started, except for part 3. Parts 1 and 2, when they first started out, I wasn't sure about it. I wasn't sure about how part 1 is all about just setting up her trip for Ireland and her relationship with her mother and whatnot. Part 2 is when the magic kicks in, when this other world kicks in. And I wasn't sure about it when I first started it. But as I got into that section of the book, I started to love it more and more. And I really enjoyed this. I'm so surprised because this book was not one that I would automatically gravitate towards if it wasn't for this challenge, because Nora Roberts, like I've said multiple times, is that romance author, that classic romance author that doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't appeal to me. But this book, I really enjoyed it. It was kind of a almost like going back to your roots fantasy kind of book, because it does have just all of the things that you would expect from witches and fae and fairies and just everything that you would expect in just a generic fantasy. But I loved that about this. I thought that it was done really well. I thought she painted a beautiful picture of Talam and of this world, and the Irish setting as well just really strikes a chord with me. I love everything with Scotland and Ireland, and I love that I could just envision it, and I really like that. And so yeah, I ended up with giving this 4.5 stars. So I really enjoyed this. Like I said, I really want to go and find the next book now. I do know that Book Outlet has it, but I don't know if I want to wait that long to get it. So I do want to, like I said, I do want to track down the next book, and I do want to continue in this series. I wasn't sure about it at first, but I really, really enjoyed my time, and I'm so, so glad that I read this and that I didn't put it off anymore. And this is kind of perfect because it's kind of the fall vibes. This takes place over the summer, but being that just kind of cozy classic fantasy that it is, it just fits perfect for this time of the year. And yeah, so anyways, this was a huge win that I was very surprised about, very pleased with. And the next book I think I'm going to start is probably The Spell Shop, because I'm just in that mood. That's the kind of thing that I want to be reading right now. And I don't know, I'm so excited to try that book out, and I'm so excited to read it. It sounds like it's going to be another kind of classic cozy fantasy book, and I'm really looking forward to that one. Hello, happy Thursday. So we're going to ignore the fact that I feel like Rudolph right now, because I am so congested right now, it's not even funny. So we're going to ignore that for now. But yesterday I started The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. I am up to 100 pages exactly in this, chapter 10, and I am absolutely loving this so much. So this book is about Keela, who worked in the library in the city and worked with like magical texts and whatnot and spell books. And there was a revolution in the city, and so her and her companion assistant jack of all trades friend, who happens to be a spider plant, Kaz, escaped out of the library, and they didn't know where to go. And she finally had a thought, well, I guess not finally, it happened within a couple of pages, but she had the thought that she did actually have somewhere that she could go, and that is the island of, I can't remember the name of it right now, but they decided that they were going to go north to the island that she was born on, because when she was about 9 years old, her parents packed up and decided to move the city to try and have a better life, but they never sold their house, and so she figures that it still belongs in her family and that maybe she could go back to the cottage. And she hasn't been there since she was 9. But that's what they decide to do, because they don't have any other plan. They don't know what else they're going to do. And so they show up at this island, and they've started to fix up the shop, or fix up the house, I mean. And it's all overrun with vines and everything else. You know, what you would expect after a place has been empty for so long. And so they're trying to figure out what they're gonna do now. She has a handful of books that she took from the library that are, like I said, they're spell books. And so they're trying to figure out what they're gonna do. They don't have much money, they don't have food, they don't have the provisions necessary to live off of for an extended period of time. And luckily now they have this house, but they're trying to figure out what they're gonna do. And Keela just decided that they could use the spell books to their advantage, open up a shop in the cottage, a jam shop making jam. They could sell the jam and also little remedies, so little magical remedies. And she doesn't know what she's doing, so it could be great, it could be horrible, it could all end terribly, but she wants to try it. And she's made friends, sort of tentative friends, with the neighbor Laren, who actually, he knew her when she was a little girl and said that she was like the only one who was kind to him. Her family were like the only ones who were kind to him when he was young. And so he remembers her, but she doesn't remember him. And so she's kind of made tentative friends with him, and because he kind of forced his way on into her house, like, I don't know, he kind of forced himself into her life. Like, she didn't really want anybody showing up, but he just kept coming back and just being a nice guy. And so yeah, this book has all the cozy vibes. It has the fun companion in Kaz, who, like I said, is a spider plant of all things, and it has the other magical creatures. There's mer horses and cats, like flying cats and different things like that. And so I'm really enjoying the magical aspects. I'm loving the cozy gardening, cleaning up the house kind of vibes. She's made friends with the local baker and just everything. I'm really, really loving this. I'm loving the setup of this. I'm loving the writing style. She's very descriptive. It's very picturesque in the way that she's written this book. And I'm having a great time. This is one of those books that, like, you want to just completely binge read it and read the entire thing in one sitting, and at the same time, like, you want to take your time and just relish in the beautiful writing and this atmosphere and the idea of this cottage with the garden out back that she's fixing up and making her own after all this time. And I'm really loving this book. I'm already getting 5-star feels from this book because it's so good, and I'm so excited to continue reading this. So I'm gonna keep going in it, and I will check back in with you when I have more thoughts and I'm further along in this book. Hey guys, so I'm sorry I did not update you more. This weekend has been insane that my father-in-law came to visit, so we spent the weekend hanging out with him, and I've just been kind of reading little bits and pieces in between. So I'd read like less than 50 pages a day, but I did finally binge this weekend, or on Monday, and I finished it. And I loved it. This book, in the acknowledgements at the end, it says, "I wanted to write a book that felt like a warm hug." She accomplished that. 100% she accomplished that. This book was amazing. I gave it 5 stars, and I highly, highly recommend it. If you like cozy fantasy and gardening and magic and fun side characters and baking and just like any of those things, if you like those things and that's what you're looking for in a book, in a cozy fantasy, it's right here. Like, this has all of it, and I absolutely loved it. It was amazing. And I'm gonna have to take a look at my top books of the year, because this one's definitely gonna be up there. I had such a great time with this book. I loved it from start to finish. As soon as I started this book, I knew I was gonna just have a great time with it, and I knew that right from the beginning that this was gonna be a 5-star book, and I love that feeling, and that feeling is amazing, and it makes me happy. So I am so glad to say that I finished this one, and I loved it. So with finishing that, I am going to wrap up. This is the 3rd book that I finished, and so I'm gonna wrap this book up, or this vlog up, because it is now the 4th of September, so I want to wrap this one up, get it edited, posted, and be able to start on my September TBR Jar challenge. So to go over everything, these are the 5 books that I chose from the jar. I had The Witcher, The Blood of Elves. This is the first book in the series by Andrzej Sapkowski. I think that's how you say it. And I am going to hold off on this one. I'm not prepared for this kind of a fantasy right now. I want the cozy fall vibes. I'm not really prepared for a high epic fantasy like this yet. So I am holding off on this one. The other one that I am going to hold off on is The Overnight Guest by Heather Gudenkauf. I started listening to a little bit of this one on audio, but I wasn't really enjoying it very much. I think it's just there's too many time jumps, too many characters right from the get-go that I didn't like it as an audiobook to start with. And I've had kind of a drought with thrillers lately, that they have all been 3 stars or under lately. And I don't want that to be the case with this one. I'm really excited to read this one. It's really intriguing, and I kind of want to give it its own time. So I'm going to hold off on this one, at least for right now, and read some of the other things that I want to read and come back to this one, because I really hope that am going to enjoy this one. I think that the premise for it sounds really interesting, and I just, like I said, I want to give it the right time. So I'm going to hold off on this one just for now. I still want to get to it soon, but at least for right now. Now, I started out this vlog reading A Demon's Guide to Wooing a Witch. This is by Sarah Hawley. I have this one set as a 3 star or a 3.5 star. I felt like this one was very, very much a copycat of the first book. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I liked the camping aspects. I liked that she was having to kind of take a look at Astaroth, that Claudia was having to take another look at Astaroth and wonder, am I really thinking, like, is he really different, or is he just pretending? And I liked that. However, because it was such a copycat of the first book, and the fact that the ending of this book went completely political with their protest, I didn't like that, and that really ruined the book for me. So that dropped this one down to like a 3.5 star for me, which is unfortunate, but I mean, it was still good. I still enjoyed my time with it. It's just the ending really fell off the wagon for me. So I don't know if I'm going to continue on with this series. The third book is A Werewolf's Guide to, it's a werewolf and a vampire. I can't remember exactly what the title is. But that's the third book. I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to pick that up or not yet. I haven't decided. I might if I find it like secondhand, but I'm not going to go out of my way to get it, at least for the time being. So that's the book that I started with. And then I read The Awakening by Nora Roberts. This one is a very just classic fantasy. I know that I've said that multiple times when I was doing my updates on this, but I loved this. I gave it 4.5 stars. I thought it was fantastic. The only thing that I didn't like with it was that it was just kind of slow, and when it switched from like part 1 to part 2, it really threw me off, and I really wasn't sure about it. But as I read it, I really, really enjoyed it. And since finishing this one, I actually found the second book, The Becoming, at my library for sale for $1, and so I picked that up. I was so excited. And so now I have the second book, and I can continue on in this series. And I was really surprised. This really surprised me. I've never read Nora Roberts before. She really intimidates me because she is that like just classic romance author. And so I'm really, really glad that I enjoyed this. And I'm so, so thankful that I picked this up because of this challenge, because I wouldn't have otherwise. And then, of course, last but not least, we had The Spell Shop that I finished, and I gave 5 stars, as I just said. Absolutely love this book. I highly recommend this one. Like I said, if you like cozy fantasy and you want something that's just a feel good, just kind of mellow, but just a really, really well written, descriptive book, this is it. I absolutely loved this. So I'd say that was a pretty good win. These are the 3. You could tell what kind of a mood I'm in because of the books that I picked up this time. But I'd say this was a pretty good win, one that I never would have picked up on my own probably, and I gave 4.5 stars. A sequel that I've been wanting to get to, which I gave 3.5 stars, which is still a good rating. It's just not my favorite book ever. And then, of course, we have 5 star, one of my top contenders for the year. So if you enjoyed this video and you would like to see more, please like and subscribe. I am going to continue on with this challenge.
just to try and keep myself busy and getting to some of the books that I haven't read in a long time. And hopefully I will have another one coming for you soon. I will link the first video down in the description if you missed that. And stay tuned because we will have more to come, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.